Welcome back to the Miles Ahead podcast with Heath.
And Olivia.
Today we're going to be recapping our 2024 race season and then answering some questions that y'all submitted.
That was very nice. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, we actually have questions that we can answer at the end. So
Yeah.
that will be very fun. It is Sunday afternoon for us. We just got done with Cinnamon Roll Sunday,
Mm.
our Sunday tradition that we started after one of my friends told me she made cinnamon rolls on Sunday. I was like, we both love cinnamon rolls. So Cinnamon Roll Sunday was created, or I guess adopted.
I wouldn't really even say I'm a big cinnamon person, but cinnamon rolls just hit.
They do. They're so good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I just love cinnamon, so
that's fair.
cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think you started off 2024 before I did with a race.
I did, yeah. I ran Cabin Fever 50K in New River Gorge. I really liked the race, although it was a late start because it snowed a whole bunch the night before. So they were thinking about like pushing the race back further. I think it was like a 9 a.m. start. And they were like, we'll let you know by 7 if we're going to start it at like 10. I was like, okay. Really cool course, just like my feet were wet the whole time because of the snow. It was really pretty. At that time I had PR'd my 50K, so that was cool. I
Nice.
think it was like a 6:28 or something like that. My goal was like sub 7 going in. But I did fall about 16 miles in. I always tend to fall on like the flattest parts of the
You
course
do.
for literally no reason. I'm on like a 6 mile stretch of just like a flat, almost rail trail, and oh, I fall 3 miles from the nearest aid station on either way. People are passing me and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine." And I like stand up and try to put weight on my knee, and I was like, oh no. And I like looked down. I tore my leggings that I'd just gotten for Christmas. I'm
Hate to see it.
sorry, mom and dad. And I was like, oh, my knee's very bloody. So we finished. So that was really exciting.
Well under your goal, so that's good as well.
Yeah, true. It was like training for the next race I had on the calendar. So it was not great coming off of my knee looking like a baseball because I had to like take quite a few days off running when that was supposed to be like my peak week. So I think I reached whatever mileage I wanted, but I was like, I can't run on this. It looks too. I would just like sit and stare at it, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest. I can run through a lot, but I just know I'm gonna be running on that, and I'm like, no, no, thank you.
Yeah. And I feel like tripping on flatter surfaces is like you kind of let your mind rest of, oh, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not having to worry about all these obstacles or routes and stuff. And
Yep.
that's when it kind of happens. I think it happens to a lot of people is like we get injured in the like dumbest
Yeah.
situations. It's not like, oh, the hard things that we do and stuff, just
Yep.
like normal joggy jog.
I think I was like trying to put my phone away, and as I was falling, I was like laughing because I was like, yep, this one's gonna hurt, and then
And it did. You're
and it
right.
did.
Again.
Yep. Got back up, started eating some like gushers. I was like, calm down, Olivia, you're okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one was it was a fun one. It's a point to point course, so that was pretty cool.
Nice.
And I just love that area, so super cool race. But that race was the training race for Rabbit Raccoon that was in March that we both ran. You didn't run anything before
I didn't
a
know. It's
race
my first
before.
race of the year again.
What was the longest run you did before Rabbit Raccoon then?
In 2024?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Uh,
don't know if I did anything over like 15 or something. Maybe I did. I
that
know I
makes
ran
sense.
the one loop of the course. It's a 12.5 mile loop,
Oh yeah.
8 loops of it. So I went down and ran the course like the weekend before. But
I was gonna say I thought it was close to being right before the race.
yeah, which I think after you've ran ultra marathons or 100, whatever distance you're doing, it's less important to do a ton of long runs
Yeah,
going into it.
true.
But that's kind of just my take on that. So yeah, mid March,
Mid March.
Rabid Raccoon 100.
I'm sorry.
Visit
Visit Beaver County
Rabid Raccoon.
Rabbit Raccoon 100 miler. Brought to you by Wolf
Wolf Creek
Creek
Race
Waste
Management.
Management.
Yeah,
It's quite the extensive name.
it is. Yeah,
But yeah, that was my second 100 miler. Your third?
third. Yeah, third I completed. Yep.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. So tell us about the course, I guess.
Yeah, so
12.5 mile loop,
12
yeah.
and a half mile loops. I don't mind loop races because you know what each part is, and it's
Yeah,
kind
what to
of mentally
expect.
easy to break it down for me as along with having your nutrition at the same spots. Because the
True.
first aid station that you could see crew, well, that I used
Well,
was
yeah.
what, like,
2 miles into the.
yeah, 2 miles in, and then you'd hit that aid station again at 8 miles in,
Yep. And
and
then
then you'd go through
start
the start finish
finish.
at 12 and a half, obviously, and then 2 miles in, you hit the aid station.
To be
So
fair,
the same, the two and the aid station, it was the same aid station.
there was an aid station at mile one of each lap, too.
There was.
Which, hey, towards the end of the race, those bathrooms, pristine condition compared to
Nice.
everything else. So,
And
I mean,
then
you were done, but.
yeah. And then the start finish was also an aid station. And it was at this like hockey rink kind of arena. And it was very nice whenever you ran through and there was a bunch of people there crewing and cheering and stuff. So that was kind of a cool experience coming around every lap and
Yeah.
had an announcer and they were playing music and stuff. So I enjoyed
Also,
that.
if you guys heard a little bink, it's because I just plugged in the laptop. I don't know if you're gonna, if that was picked up, but if it was, it's because the screen keeps going black, and so I didn't want us to have
Yeah.
to keep going over the cursor and saying, no,
Yeah.
no, no, stay
I can probably
alive.
just adjust the settings. I don't know why it's sleeping so fast.
You
But
know,
yeah, cool race.
cool race.
Going into it, I kind of had the expectations of I wanted to aim for like 20 hours after seeing the course,
Yeah,
and it was muddy.
true. How much elevation gain?
I think like 12 to 1500 somewhere. I think watches. So
Total?
yeah, my bad. 12,000 to
I thought it was,
16,000.
okay, I was gonna say, I thought it was 16.
I think it depends on your
Your,
watches
well,
and
yeah,
stuff.
everything
Yeah,
depends on your
probably
watch,
like 13 to 16,000 feet. So
depending on who
good
you
amount of
ask.
elevation gain. Uh, so what made you want to do that race?
I was looking on the calendar. I said, when do I want to do this? I was like, March seems good. Um, I said I liked the loops. I said it's not too far away, and it was cheap.
Yeah.
It was a pretty cheap race. I said, hey, this is a lot closer than Cloud Splitter. It's less gain than Cloud Splitter.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a fun time.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how I missed that there was a creek crossing in the description until I got there. Got there and I was like, hey, like I was with my crew and I was like, can we go look at this creek? And we drive over and my crew chief is like, hey, you're not going to be able to avoid that one. And I was like, well, that's going to be a problem for tomorrow me. It was, in fact, a problem for tomorrow me.
And the next day.
And the next day me.
Yeah.
And honestly, the following day me.
Yeah.
So, but that's okay.
What was your goal going in? Just finishing?
Finish, yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to be faster than Cloud Splitter, but that was I wanted to finish. I think I wanted to like prove to myself that the first time wasn't a fluke, like that I could indeed do that distance again.
I like that.
And I'd also just like thought about running 100 again, like every day post Cloud Splitter. I was like, I want to do that again.
Interesting.
Wild thing to want to put myself through, but you know.
Yeah. So not a super technical course.
No.
There's a couple spots that are
Yeah.
semi-technical,
It
but
was
nothing
just the
insane.
mud.
Yeah.
So much mud.
First 2 miles is pretty much flat, and then
Yep.
after that, you're kind of up and down a good bit. There's some more aggressive hills and some not so aggressive inclines.
Yeah.
And then that creek crossing about mile 8.5. It was
Yeah.
right after that aid station, every loop. And then the most technical part was like they called it Mountain Doom. It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
downhill right before you get back to the start finish, and that spot was pretty technical.
Yeah. It was just like almost like falling apart. I don't know how to describe it, but it was just like I was like, oh, I can slip here, I can slip here.
Yeah,
I didn't by some miracle, but you know,
that's impressive.
it really was. I didn't fall at all.
Especially being 30 hours into a race. That's where I'd think I'd be like, or like if you're on your last lap or second to last lap when your legs are really tired. I think it's where you probably have more of a possibility of.
I think I was
Falling.
just like mentally tired. I by that point I had poles, which was really helpful, and like taking the brunt of most of what I was doing. But
That's fair.
yeah, it was cool. Only complaint I have is there's not enough coffee. Every time I came into an aid station and wanted coffee, they were like, the carafe moved. I was like, what do you mean? Why do we have one carafe of coffee for the entire race? I was like, I guess there's only like 25 of us still out here.
That's
But
fair.
also, I was like, well, I guess I'll get it next time. And then it would move again. And I was like, so I had some really cold, really crappy coffee at the first mile aid station of the last loop, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
I like dumped it leaving the aid station. I was like, thank you guys so much. Dump.
Yeah, the last thing I'm ever going to want in the middle of a race is some bean water.
Fine, I
Coffee's
know.
disgusting.
I
Hot take.
it is his hot take, but maybe one day you'll.
I don't think anyone drinks coffee and says, black coffee and says, oh, this tastes so good.
It does.
No. You're lying to yourself.
I'm not lying to. Okay, you can think that. I like at this point. It's just like second nature. Like, oh, I want a hot cup of coffee in the morning. And...
That's fair. So yeah, going the race, I thought 20 hours was reasonable time. So I figured the first lap I'd try to aim for 2, then go 2:05, 2:10, 2:15, just get a bit slower every single lap was kind of my race strategy. And the first couple, I think I hit around 2:05. First lap, I wasn't in first place. There's people ahead of me, which I was fine with. I wasn't going to go out super fast. I kind of wanted to run my race. I tripped on the first lap. I think like 11, maybe 12 miles in. It wasn't far from the start finish.
Awesome.
And I was like,
ow.
Shoot. And after I fell, I'm like, I have to use the bathroom. Like, bad.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So make it down to the start finish, and they had obviously bathrooms in there with it being like a hockey rink thing. So went and used the bathroom. I was like, okay, I'm going to take some Imodium now too. Washed my hands, got back out on the course. I'm like, okay, I feel a lot better now, which I usually do after. And then started working my way up. I think I was in 2nd to 5th place that whole lap, and then I passed first place right at the second time through the start finish, so mile 25. He went off to do something at the aid station, and I kind of took the lead from there.
Yeah, it was a cool time. My like feet kind of fell apart around mile 50. I was like just going through it mentally. I was like, I don't know. I thought since I had done 100 before that I could like be like, oh, it's not that far, it's not that bad. And I found out you cannot. You should mentally be in it from start to finish, and by mile 50 I was really not. My feet were like torn apart, like it was so painful to walk, and I was like, I can't walk another 50 miles like this. So I came to the aid station. I was like, hey, we're gonna do a reset. I don't even know what that means, but please try to fix me. She was like calling her dad that's an ultra runner and is like, what else can I do for her poor feet? Because they look just scary. And so she was spraying like Axe on them and like blister stuff. So needless to say, really was not my best day. My stomach went south like shortly after, so I just like stopped eating after mile like 65 maybe. It was just like
That's
I
rough.
would just like eat a little and then like wait until I got hungry and could like eat a little more and then repeat the cycle.
Nice. I tried to eat like the same thing every lap between the aid stations. I kind of kept that consistent, which worked out very well. I was just carrying bottles the whole time, which was convenient. And then I was in the lead from 25 on. I ended up winning the race. I didn't know how much of a lead I had because the timing mats weren't working because they put them inside the building and it just messed it up. So I didn't know until like the last lap, whenever the second person came through, because my pacer waited the aid station. So that was cool. It was a fun race. My problem, which happened around I think like 60, maybe a bit earlier, was my shins from all the downhills that are killing me, and that's something I have to figure out before I do the race again this year. I need to run some downhills hard and see what I can do. And I legit was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if I like fractured my shins. It was hurting so bad.
That's scary.
But I survived.
You did. Thank goodness.
It was fine like 2 weeks after the race. So.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that was the race we met at, and then you were the next one that raced post that.
Yeah.
And I was here and getting to crew you or watch everyone crew you, and that was fun.
Yeah, next race I ran was kind of anticlimactic. It was called Fool's 50K. I think it was the end of May.
Yeah. Yep.
So I was kind of just running it as a training run. It was a 5K loop for 10 laps.
Yeah.
Which is nice because I just carried a bottle and I had tailwind in it one lap and then water in it the next lap. Just switched out Seth and Mom, and you switched them out every lap, which is nice. And my splits were insanely even. I think I ran within 10 seconds per mile on all the loops.
Yeah.
And I wanted to set the course record, which I think I did
You
by
did,
like
yeah.
10 or 8 minutes, which I think they've changed the course every year, so I don't know if that really counts. Same with Rabbit Raccoon, they changed the course, but I set the course record by like 4 hours or something.
Yeah.
But different course, so.
Different challenges.
So, yeah, I don't know if course records really count whenever the course is changed
That's fair.
over the years, because, I mean, they can be completely different courses. And also, course records are so interesting because weather dependent as
Yeah,
well. Like,
true.
every year is definitely not the same.
Yeah, seriously.
But the cool thing about that race was I set my PR in the 50K back in 2020 during my first 50K because it was very flat, not technical course. And then I ended up running a like 10-second PR
Yeah, I
or
know it was
something during this
close.
race. It was super, super close.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, that was a good race. It was the first race you were at. It was a fun
Yeah.
time.
Well, I guess first race I was at that I was actively watching you.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah.
And then that leads us to also. So what was your actual? Did you just say what your time was?
I think
3.
3:47, I think. Yeah.
Something like that.
And then at Rabbit Raccoon, I ran a 18:06.
Yeah.
What'd you run there?
33:27.
Awesome. And you did PR.
I did PR at the time.
Your time.
So I set out and did my goal.
Yeah. And that course had a pretty lenient, was it 36-hour cutoff?
Yeah.
But had a good amount of elevation too, so you win some, you lose some with that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because 100-milers have very vast cutoffs.
True.
Like
yeah.
some of them are like aggressive, like 24 hours, some are
Yeah.
30, and then there's some 36s. I think some
A
super.
lot of 32s.
Yeah, a lot of tough ones have like 38. Or not, my bad. I mean, some of the super tough ones have like 48-hour
Yeah.
cutoffs if they're like insane. But
And me and Cloud Splitter was 40. So,
40? Okay.
Yeah. And then next we did Summer Sasquatch.
Yeah, Summer
Yeah.
Sasquatch, Salt Fork.
Salt Fork because we had friends running it and we signed up like 3 days before
Yeah.
and we said we'll run this together. That'll be fun.
Also a loop race. Did I run? Okay.
It was a loop race.
I only ran one race this year that wasn't kind of a loop race, which is wild.
It's funny.
But that race for me, it was pretty hot that day. It got super hot
Oh, it was
towards
so
the
hot,
end,
yeah.
which was rough around you since you were out there a bit longer than me. But going
Little
in,
muddy
yeah, that course never
is dry.
just never dry. I told Liv going in, Ben and I were like, oh no, it's been super dry lately. Like the course can be dry, and a lot of it's bridle trail, and there was some spots that were super muddy still.
Yeah.
Which is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I know that anytime I run that race again. I've ran that course a couple times. I ran the summer edition once for the 20-miler, and then I ran the winter edition one time, and it poured that whole time, and it was a disaster.
Sounds like it.
I felt like 10 times. It was a fun time, though.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Met some friends there and built some relationships, so that was a cool time. But this race, I just wanted to go out and have a good time. Also run it as a training run. And I ended up running a 4:16 or something, maybe.
Something like that. I think it was faster.
Was it?
The mud at one point for me like sucked my shoe off. Of course it was exactly.
It was actually a
4:16.
4:16, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's funny.
8:15 pace. I was in first or second place the first 2 laps,
Yeah.
or the first lap and a half, and I was talking with this other guy that was leading on and off, and he was an older guy, but like a really good runner, and had ran this race so many
So
times.
many times.
The winter and the summer edition, and he'd gotten like second to fourth place
So
every
many
time,
times,
like
yeah.
probably like 6 or 8 times. And he was like, yeah, hopefully this year I can win it. And I'm like, oh gosh, like I was planning on doing that. Golly gee. But he stopped at the one aid station to get water at like mile 15 or 16, and I created a gap then, and I think ended up winning by like 10 minutes. But he gave me a heck of a race, and I was like, kept looking behind me like,
That's fair.
gosh, you catch up, because I tried to drop him before that and I just couldn't, and then luckily I got a little bit of a gap. That race has probably about 100 feet per mile of elevation.
Yeah.
Not super technical, but
I think that
definitely
it's
muddy in
more.
parts.
I thought it was
More, maybe it's
more
like
than
4,000
that. Yeah, I
over
think
the
it was like
31 miles.
4.
Okay.
It was the race that I set my current 50K PR at 5:50.
Nice.
I didn't think I was gonna go anywhere under 6, so that was a quite an exciting day for me,
Yeah.
especially considering the mud. I fell sometime during the second loop, pretty bad, of which it always happens.
Like once every race, it seems
Yeah,
like.
and I was like on a nice little downhill. Nobody was around. I was like, phew, okay. Close call. I was putting my sunglasses away.
Stop putting stuff away.
I know.
Just keep it out.
Or like stop to put it away. I don't know why that never crosses my head, my brain.
4,300 feet of elevation.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was quite a bit.
Fun race. It's put on by Western Reserve. They put on some good races up here in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
They also host Burning River as well.
Um,
But fun part of that race, our buddy Ben Kelly was running it with us, and him and Liv were kind of have like a little bit of a rivalry.
yeah. Going into it?
Yeah, going into it. And he's like, I want to run sub 6 and beat Liv. And he was filling his water bottles after his second lap up, and Liv passed him, and he didn't know that Liv passed him.
Yeah.
So he had like a mile to go. Liv already came in. He called me. He's like, hey, can you get the camera to record me coming in? I'm like, oh, yeah, I can. He's like, how's Liv doing? And I'm like, good. She finished like 10 minutes ago. And he's like, what? Because he obviously never saw her pass.
Yeah.
And there's like a little part that's an out and back, but there's no way you guys would have seen each other. So that was fun. I think he also ran a PR that race too. So.
Yeah. I think it was like a 6:18 or something like that. I don't know. He'll probably correct us, so we'll find out. But that was the race. I think I got second at it. I passed the girl that was in second sometime during lap 2.
Nice.
I never saw the girl that was in first. I don't know what time she ran, but I think it was really fast. I remember passing the girl in second. I was like, but yeah, she ended up falling a little bit behind. But I was like, all right, well, let's hold on to this. And I did feel like that race spread out a lot, so I didn't see it almost anyone.
Yeah. I like that course. Not a bad course.
Yeah, no.
Cute little race. Also not super expensive.
No,
from what I remember.
Yeah.
Even with us signing up
So
not long
last
beforehand.
minute.
Yeah. And then a week later,
Yeah.
literally the next weekend, we both ran the New River Gorge Trail Festival 50K,
50K.
Summer Edition, hosted
Summer
by
edition.
Wolf Creek.
Yeah. We were originally signed up for that one, and in our brains, we were like, we'll just run 50Ks back-to-back weekends. That'll be fine.
Yeah, it will be good training for like a 100-miler. Just
Yeah.
your legs aren't fully recovered and stuff. And that was a good time.
Yeah.
So I had ran the winter edition. Wolf Creek sponsors me. Shout out to them. So I'd ran the winter edition last year in December. And the course is super fast because it's 2 loops, and then the second loop has an out and back. That's 3 miles out, 3 miles back. And then the other loops are whatever it be, 13 miles.
Yeah,
pretty much.
something
And then
like that.
2.5 out and back.
Yep.
So like 6 miles of it was like pretty light downhill where you could really cruise, and there was 1 mile of uphill that was like 600 feet, and that's kind of where you get it all back.
Okay.
But I think it was probably like 2,500 feet of elevation. So I'm like, cool, gonna run a really fast time here. Want to try to run around what I ran at Fools. I'm a bit better shape now. And then we go out, and everyone takes this turn, the people in the lead, because the half marathon starts at the same time as half marathon and the 50K. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, I don't distinctly remember turning here, but this is probably right. Everyone's going this way. And then we start going down this deep incline, and after like a half mile, I'm like, we definitely are running it backwards.
Yeah.
Which wasn't supposed to be on purpose, but I'm like, I can't just turn around at this point
Yeah.
and go the other way because everyone's already going the wrong way. Like, it's already a mess. So, like, it's going to just have to be everyone goes this way. And I'm like, and if I'm not, someone's ahead of me. So if I turn around and backtrack and go the right way and stuff, like, they're going to have lead on me by a good amount of time. So make that up. So the whole first lap, we're running it backwards, so the signs aren't correct because they're showing you where to come out rather than where to go in.
Yep.
And so I was running with like 3 people. It was the guy that got second, Holly Ann Swan. She was like the lead female. I think she won it for the females. We were running together, and like one other dude, and we're like trying to navigate it and stuff. And then the second lap, a little bit in before the out and back, I think is where I took the lead. And I had like a 20 or 30 second lead with like 5 miles to go, and I think I ended up winning it by like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, I think it was.
But it was
So
It was
wild.
hard mentally because like I'm like I want to run the super fast time, like
Yeah,
it's a great course for it, and then as soon as the course was opposite, I'm like, there's no way I'm running a fast time because
yeah,
we have 6 miles of light uphill rather than that 6 miles light downhill, which is completely different.
yeah,
It's gonna affect your time and just mentally. I'm just like, well, shoot, I'm not running the time I
yeah,
want to. Like, I still want to win the race, obviously, but like, it's not gonna be what you want it to be, and that's kind of something you have to accept during races.
yeah,
Hey, things are gonna go wrong, and it might not be your picture perfect race,
yeah.
especially in an ultra marathon,
So it was
and that's
funny,
okay.
yeah, because Heath going into Summer Sasquatch League before was like super runnable course. It shouldn't be muddy, and then he's like, "I'm sorry, it wasn't.
Yeah,
It was so muddy." And then this weekend he's like, "All right, this one's gonna be actually runnable."
yeah, super
And
runnable.
then,
It's still
so
super
yeah,
runnable. It wasn't technical at all, and it
no,
wasn't muddy. That day got super hot as well.
yes, that it was so hot. I remember like dying.
So hot. And at the finish, like they had some guy that was like having like heat stroke or heat
Yeah,
exhaustion, and after I finished, like I went and picked him up and brought him from like the last aid station, and like he
yeah,
was in like rough shape. It just got hot, and he wasn't like some dude who's never ran ultra marathons before. I was like talking to him, he's ran like many. He just was going through it, which
yeah.
it got hot, definitely got
I
hot, and
think it
that
was
one's
like
in New River
90.
Gorge, obviously.
Yeah,
It's kind of in the name, so you just ran 40 races there this year,
literally.
and what we went down 2 times on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's like your third home.
Literally. But that was New River Gorge was an interesting race for me because but that race was an interesting one for me because we were just told we were off course. When we got to the first aid station, they were like, "Yeah, you guys aren't on course." And I felt the aid station worker was like pulling my leg, but I didn't have service to like check or anything.
Mm,
And like I was running with some people that were doing the half, and they were like, "That makes sense because there was supposed to be an aid station like 3 miles in, and we never hit it." So yeah, I thought that the aid station worker was like just messing with me because I was like, "What do you mean?" But yeah, that aid station wasn't set up. That was supposed to be at mile 3 because we were running it in reverse. So I'm freaking out because I don't know if I'm gonna even get like the 31 miles.
mm,
I was like, I don't even know if any of this is gonna count.
yeah,
And there was like an out and back you're supposed to do on the second lap that they were like, you can do it now. We sent everyone to go do it now. And so I'm like, oh cool, I'll see Heath. And I start running out in this out and back, not seeing Heath. People are coming by and I'm like, there's no way he's this far back. I was like, did something happen to him? Is he okay? I don't know where he is. So I'm like freaking out and end up getting out, going back, but apparently I didn't look at the course map that well before we went and did this because I thought that the start finish was an aid station. And I'm like, where is this? At this
yeah.
point, I'm like 20 miles in. I'm like, I don't think we're going back to the start finish.
No,
So luckily, like, I think I'm like a marathon in, and Heath calls me, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness you're okay. I was so stressed. I think I had Ben text me when you were finished, and I was like, okay. He did it, but I was like looking at my watch, and my dad's also on the phone to me, like, it's been 4 hours, he doesn't came in yet, and I was like, it's been 4 hours 10 minutes, he doesn't came in yet, and I'm just like heavily breathing. Um, so yeah, it ended up being a fun, very eventful day.
yeah. It wasn't what I wanted it to be, and this was the last race I had scheduled before Burning River,
Yeah,
and I was like, I wish it would have went better.
that's fair.
But I was also happy with like it was a good training run,
Yeah, it was.
nonetheless. And the other two 50Ks I ran went kind of perfectly for what I
Yeah,
wanted. So
exactly. And you also just ran a 50K the weekend before.
yeah.
So.
Well, but then there was one like 2 weeks later, and I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
maybe I do that, and I can run one last good race before it. And then I was like, no, it's too close to Burning River. I
Yeah,
could twist an ankle. Don't want something like that to happen. So I ended up opting not to do that.
correct. Which I think was a smart decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember just like I got to the last aid station and I was like, Olivia, all right, go quickly. Like you're good. Just head on out. But they had like freeze pops there, and I'm downing these freeze pops.
As you
They're
should.
not frozen at all. It's just cold water. I'm like, I'm so hot.
Yeah. Also on the out and back, because I ran on the second loop,
Yeah.
I'm like, I should probably see Liv on this. She should not be that far behind me within the 6 miles. I should
Yeah.
see her, and I didn't see her, and I'm like, okay, don't love that.
So we're both freaking
because I think I
out.
saw, yeah, I think I saw like a couple other females on it.
Yeah.
And also on the out and back, I saw people wearing half marathon
Ugh.
bibs, and I'm like, oh, they're not supposed to do that. So they ran an
No.
extra 6 miles. They probably ended up with like
Wild.
19,
Insane.
which is rough, especially if like this was your first half
Yeah.
marathon you were gonna do.
I would be so upset.
Yeah.
I'd be like, somebody come pick me up from somewhere. I don't care. At that
Yeah.
last aid station, I'd be like, I'm done. Sorry. I did my 13. At that point, you're probably at like 15. So,
Yeah.
a crazy day. What
Looks like
time did you end up running?
I ran a 4:31:25, and it looks like you were around a 6:19.
All right.
And our friend Ben, he was recording a video for the race, like
Yeah.
a little hype video for it. Again, they just released that a couple weeks ago, and it turned out really well. But
Yeah. He like ran with me out of an aid station. I was like, go fast, Olivia. Make him work with the camera.
as you should.
But yeah, that was great because afterwards I got to take Heath to Pies and Pints.
Mm.
If you are ever in Fayetteville, West Virginia, you have to go to Pies and Pints. I love that place. The pizza's great. Everything's great. Atmosphere is great. If there's a wait, it's worth it, I promise. I think I've waited like 2 hours to get me some Pies and Pints.
Yeah, I've only had the vegan cheese there, and it's okay. It's
yeah.
like average pizza. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't amazing. So now next time we go down, I'll actually have normal cheese, and maybe it'll be a
Yeah.
better experience. Not as a bad experience, or I'd
Oh,
ever
no.
not go there for sure. But
Vegan
probably
cheese
hit
is
different.
only vegan cheese, you know?
it's fake cheese.
It
It's,
is.
It's what it sounds like. Fake. But yeah, and that brings us to my next race,
Yeah.
which was Burning River 100, which was
The big one.
kind of my goal race for the year. Which we're not going to go super in depth with this because we're going to do next episode. We're going to talk about the race from both of our points of views since Liv was there crewing. But ended up running a 15:23.
Yep.
Which
So
was
fast.
right around where I wanted to be. Because I said to my buddies a couple weeks before in a group chat, hey, I want to run a 7:10 first half and then try to end up running a 15:20 total, which I ran exactly 7:10 the first half, and then
So
the second
wild.
half was 3 minutes off. But ended up winning the race, which I was super hyped about.
Yeah.
Thought I was going to be more hyped, but
Yeah.
I had to work all up until
whole
like the
next
day
week.
before the race. I had
Yeah.
the day before the race off, had the day of the race off, and then I had to work that Sunday, which I think I mentioned in the last episode. But
Yeah.
it was just like kind of like this is in the middle of kind of everything.
Yeah.
So, but it went exactly how I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
So I couldn't complain about that. But that was my last race for the year, actually,
Oh,
which is
keep
wild
forgetting
because I
about
only
that.
ran 5 ultras
Yeah.
this last year, but 4 of them were in like a 2-month span.
Yeah, true.
So it was like so
It felt
much
like a
condensed,
lot.
and it felt like I did so much.
Yeah.
And then like I haven't ran a race since then. So
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
So
and that was at the end of July. The 2 50Ks were in June.
Yep.
And then one other 50K I did was in May.
May, yeah. But yeah, Burning River was a real stressful day for me.
Yeah.
Because you didn't go into first place until mile 88.
Yeah.
My heart rate the whole day was so high. And, like, I'm driving around our one friend, Ben, and he's like, I don't know why you're stressed. And I'm like, why do you think I'm stressed? I know why I'm stressed. I, like, got a cup of coffee, and I, like, was like, don't finish this, Olivia. You're shaking enough. You're good.
Yeah. And I don't think I was ever nervous during the race. Like, I was like, hey, if I run a really solid race and I don't win, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, if I do everything I can and I push myself to the limits and I don't win, hey, you learn from it and you do
Yeah.
better next time. But of course, I'm super competitive. I want to win.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think I was stressed. It was like, do what I can do now in the moment.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what's happening to the other people out there.
Yeah, and since Heath didn't have his phone on him and, like, the service was not super great, like, the aid station that he finally did get into first place, like, I thought I could hear Carlo yelling in the distance, and I was like, either they're, like, right next to each other, or, like, I'm hearing stuff, because, like, people were
Coming up the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People were, like, coming through that field or whatever, with, like, dogs and kids and stuff like that, and I was like, get out of the way! They're probably like, why is this girl just, like, staring down the trail? Like, My hands are on my knees. I'm just like, come on, come on, come on.
Where is he?
So, but luckily, I saw Carlo around the corner and I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Yes.
It was such a relief. And like the thing is we couldn't stay to see how much of a gap you had because the next aid station was so close.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 miles
Yeah,
down the road.
so we had to go. Luckily, our friends Brenton and Sarah were the ones
Yeah.
that stayed and watched. So that was nice to have eyes on the field
Yeah.
just to check.
That was the thing too. Like I knew I passed Alec, who was in first place, and I knew he was in rough shape. But he's also a beast. He was obviously leading for 88 miles. Like I'm like he could come back, he could get a second win or something. But also I had no idea how much of a lead I had on third place.
Yeah.
And he was also
Really
he used to
good
complete
runner.
like professionally in triathlons.
Yeah.
So like absolute beast as well. So I'm like, I don't know where if he might come out of nowhere as
Yeah,
well.
literally.
So it's like no chill. And of course I wanted to run the best time I could either way, but
Yeah. So yeah, ended up being a good day to have a great day.
it was a good day to have a great day.
And then I drove you back. You got some General Tso's chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And laid on the floor for a while, and I was like, here's your chicken.
Yeah, and I probably ate like 5 bites.
I know.
It. Like
It was
I don't
bad.
know if anyone else has this experience. Like swallowing actual food after races is an absolute challenge for me. During
yeah.
races, like I'll eat honey stinger waffles and
Yeah.
maybe some watermelon. Taking a lot of tailwind. We can talk about nutrition
Yeah.
in another video, but I don't take anything super solid in. And then I think my body's just so depleted of everything and just so tired just swallowing and chewing food. It seems like I have to chew 8 times as much to get a bite down. And just laying on the floor after I took a bath, soaked in the tub for a while, just, I don't know.
You were out
It's
of
that
it.
suffering you like, though. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I deserve to suffer right
True.
now. And, like, this feels good because I did something.
You did something hard, yeah.
Yeah.
Your eyes were all bugged out. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm gonna go
Laying
put
on
this
the
in the
floor on
fridge.
towels. Yeah. It was a good time. And then I asked you, I said, can you get me a bowl?
No, you said, can you get me
A bowl.
Oh yeah,
a big
it was
bowl.
a
Can you
bowl.
get me a big bowl? And she's like, oh, here's a trash can. And I'm like, no, for like the Chinese food, so I can mix the chicken with the rice. And she's like, oh, okay.
Well, he was just laying on the ground. I was like, maybe he's gotta throw up.
No, that's the more logical thing to think is, oh, he's gonna throw up. Like,
Yeah, that was funny. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Nope, he just wanted to eat his 4 bites of Chinese food.
yeah. And then, I slept. I worked at noon the next morning, so finished the race at 7:20.
Oh.
Yeah, it would have been like 7:25. And then we didn't stay long after because
No.
I didn't, respectfully, I
tired.
worked the next day. And also, I feel like sometimes it's kind of weird, like waiting at the finish line if you beat somebody to see them finish. It depends on probably the relationship you have
Yeah,
with them
true.
too. But
Or
it's
if you
just
know
like,
them, yeah.
I don't know if I lose a race if I want the person that beat me to be at the finish line because
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to be super happy that I lost. Like,
That's fair.
So, and I'm like, I don't really want to stay for however long I work tomorrow. I want to go home and try to recover some and then try
Yeah.
to eat.
Try being the key
Slept in a
word.
lot.
Well, but we also went to the award ceremony, which was at like 10. So
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah,
you
yeah.
slept in, but
And then I ran at some point. I ran a
Before you
couple
went
miles
into
before
work,
I
yeah.
went to work because I wanted to keep my streak of 6.5 every single day. So I think I ran like 3 miles. Then I ran 3 miles on my lunch at work. So
yeah.
which was super good that I worked I had to work like 12 or 14 hours the next like 3 days after
It's
that.
wild.
Not the day after, but the other ones because I think we had an inventory on Wednesday or Thursday. But I was moving around the whole day, getting up
Yeah.
and down, looking on the floor, which is good to get my muscles moving
Yeah.
and stuff. I think active recovery is super important, and we'll talk about that later from one of the questions that we have.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah. So that wraps up my 2024 season.
Wild.
Yeah. And then next, sorry, go ahead.
Did I do more races than you this year?
I did Fools. You didn't do Fools. So
But I
no,
did-
I think we did
I did
the same
Cabin
amount.
Fever.
Okay. Cabin Fever, Rabbit Raccoon,
Both the 50Ks.
both 50Ks, so that's 4.
PA Trail.
PA Trail,
Rim to River.
River.
And Devil Dog. So I did 7. How many did you?
5. I did 5. You
Wild.
did do more, yeah.
Ha
I forgot about PA Trail Jamboree.
That's the next one we're going to talk about.
Yes. You could have asked me if that was before Burning River or after Burning River, and I probably would have had to think really hard
That's
about
fair.
what it was.
Yeah, so a week after Burning River, I did, oh gosh, the name, PA Trail Jamboree 12 hour. There
Yeah.
we go. It was down like kind of towards Lancaster, PA, because Heath and I were going to visit my parents, and I've
Mhm.
been wanting to do a 12-hour race just to like
Training run. You said it was a
training run.
training
Yeah,
for
it was a
100. Yeah, yeah.
training run for Rim to River, and I wanted to like see how far I could go in
Yeah.
a 12-hour span. So that one was cool. You didn't know how long the loop was gonna be until you got there to like packet pickup, and we were like rushing to get there in time for packet pickup. And like you just had written on a piece of paper, 3.75 mile loop. How much gain?
400.
400 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, maybe yeah,
Were the loops that long?
yeah. I think they it felt a little bit short. I think my watch was a little bit short, but
Okay.
if we're going based on whatever it said,
Yeah, which is weird.
um, so yeah, it was.
I would like to say, respectfully, you go with what the race says the distance is. Like, you
Yeah.
don't go off your watch. Everyone's watch is going to be different. Like, if the race says it's a 5K, they probably measured it out better than your watch, and your GPS is going to measure it out, especially on trails and stuff. So
Yeah.
always go off what the official race results say. I don't say, hey, my 5K PR is something because my watch says that's my 5K PR, because it says the race was a bit long. Like, I always just go off the official results.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially on trails, my watch always shorts me a good bit. So, yeah, PA Trail Jamboree. It was a
I
good time. Insanely hot that day.
so hot. I know in one of the videos that you took that you said how much gain it was, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to figure out what you said.
So it was cool because I just stayed at the start finish, which was the only aid station on the course, and crewed the live the whole day. Wasn't much self run reception there,
No.
which is fine. And it seemed like, oh, I'm going to have 40 minutes pretty much between each lap. But that didn't seem that long at all whenever you're actually there. You're like, 40 minutes seems like a good time. But like the times I ran to gas stations to get myself food
Yeah.
or to get live stuff, I'm just like,
Yeah, literally.
trying to get in and out as fast as I can, making sure I don't like miss her.
Yeah. It was 500 feet of elevation per lap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It was pretty aggressive. I
It
ended up
was, yeah.
pacing you for the last 4 laps.
Like 13 miles, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that one was. It's like a smaller race. I went into it knowing a couple people that were running it, and I was like, oh, they're strong runners. Like, this will be interesting. Because I wanted to, like, try a little bit. But yeah, we took off. I think I ran the first lap, like, almost 10-minute miles
First
flat.
couple, yeah.
Yeah, and, but since there was also a 3 hour, 6 hour, 12 hour, and a 24 hour,
Mm.
and, like, everyone's bibs were the same. Like, usually I can, like, figure out a way to distinguish. I think the numbers might have been slightly different, but I was like, I don't know, but at least the tracking was working.
It was, and you noticed the tracking before I did because
Yeah, true.
you're like 3 laps in or 2 laps in. You're like, hey, do you want to place them in? I'm like, no. Like, it's a 12-hour race. Like, we're not even 2 hours in. Like, I haven't checked yet. Like, wait, actually, you're like usually aren't competitive. Like, you care and like
Yeah.
you cared a lot, which is cool.
Yeah, it was a new thing for me. I think because
You did
coming off
super
of
good in
doing
those
well,
other 250Ks.
yeah, getting second and third there, I was like, I could try. I'm in good enough shape to try and see
Yeah.
what happens.
As you should, and everyone should try. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
So
Just
yeah,
push yourself.
the trail was fine.
That
About
was the most technical
yeah,
trail I ran in a race. Well, I didn't race that other than pacing Andy at Laurel. But
true. It was definitely a little technical in spots. Like it felt like PA trails.
Yeah.
So around 37 miles in, it starts thundering, lightning, pouring down rain. We knew it was on the forecast. I guess it was a little before 37 because I'm like a mile from the aid station and I'm like, oh no. Fun fact, I hate thunder and lightning. I hate thunderstorms. Heath knows this and I start seeing a guy running towards me and I'm like, the race is that way. But
Project Save Little Dog.
yeah, literally. But it was funny because at the beginning of the race they were like, hey, like if it starts thundering and lightning, like we might have to like pause the race, of which they weren't really specific on what that meant.
Which small race probably never had that happen before.
That's true, yeah.
Timed race different than normal race,
Yeah.
like distance race. So that was weird, and like no one, the majority of people out there didn't care what place they came in.
Yeah,
99%
that's true.
of people. That's probably 90% of people in like a normal race. They don't really care
Yeah.
what place they come in, which is fine.
Yeah.
Hey, love anyone getting out there doing it for yourself. That's what's most important. But you were in first, and you had like a 40-minute lead, I
Yeah.
believe, at the time.
I had like almost lapped the
Yeah.
guy that was in second.
Yes, and he went out to do another lap. He said,
Yep.
I don't care about the thunder and lightning. I'm going to run another lap. He had a booth set up, and he was running with his
Yeah.
son's older dude. Looked like he was like definitely into lifting. Was like in
Oh
shape,
yeah.
and like had a thing about how he was trying to get to
He
what,
was
50
yeah,
miles.
he was like crossing off
Yeah,
each lap
crossing
he
off.
did.
It was like a
cute.
cool little poster board he had up trying to do that. And I'm like, wait, if he keeps running, she doesn't run. Is he going to get the extra 40 minutes at the end or however long the
Yeah.
time is? Like, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And the guy running the race is like,
Great question.
great question. I don't really care. And I'm like, I care. Like, she's in first place. I want her to win.
Yeah, but it
Officially.
was funny because you pass like some pavilions like in the last mile, and like as soon as it started raining kind of hard, like people were like stopping and like hanging out under the pavilions. But what sucked is like those people didn't know that the race had been paused or anything like that. But like so I wasn't sure how that like worked out with their time because like everybody's out on the loop.
That's the thing. You can't. Like,
Yeah.
there's no real official way. Because, like, are you going to pause them whenever they get to finish the loop and then, like, however long they're in there? Like, that's so much to keep track of. It really
I
is.
feel
And, like, or, oh, hey, I was in this. But there's no way to prove
Yeah.
that. And does it really matter to the majority of people? No. They probably don't care. They're probably going to stop when it hits 12 hours from
Yeah.
the beginning of the race.
I think the only thing you could do would be like give them back 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Or like 30, I think it was like 33, 34 minutes or something like that. Just like be like, hey, if you want to run.
But if they didn't stop, then do they still get that extra time? Then that's where it's like...
Yeah, true. But what I was seeing is most people were stopping, so that was...
Understandable. It was
Understandable,
raining cats and
yeah.
dogs.
It was
And your parents
crazy.
came not super long before that.
Yeah. So Heath rescues me from the rain. He's just like sprinting out. He's like, I'm soaked. And I was like, yeah, correct. So
I didn't even run out that far. It was like
No,
not even half a
it
mile.
wasn't
I think it was
a
probably like a
mile.
quarter mile.
And I'm like sprinting to get back. I'm running with this guy and we're trying to like hightail it in. Get in. The race director's like, hey, we're gonna like wait for this to be done because he was like, I can't send you guys back out in this. Like, I can't. I think it was like I don't know. It sounded like a legal reason or something like that. I wasn't really sure.
Probably insurance. I don't know.
Probably, yeah, that's true.
Technicalities.
So, I'm just like hanging out in there while it's raining so much. I was like, the trail's gonna be awful after this.
Yeah.
And it was funny because it was like 90 something degrees. So I was sweating so much all day. I had an ice bandana on, and then I'm like freezing. I hadn't taken a race shirt the day before, and they had a whole bunch of like extra shirts from all the races that they put on. And I was like, can I take one of your dry shirts? And they're like, oh yeah. So
Strasbourg half marathon.
Strasbourg half marathon is the shirt that I finished the race in because I just wanted a dry layer. So yeah, but it was not super fun to be that far into a race and then have to like stop for that long when you only have X amount of time left to have to run. So
I've
I
never
didn't.
stopped for a long period of time in a race.
No.
I think my legs would lock up.
That's what I was scared it was what was going to happen. It ended up being a little bit better than expected, and the trails drained well enough.
Yeah.
So they like let us all go. We straightened it out that like that time was just going to get minus from my time. So I think I technically finished.
Well, I think you had till like instead of ending at 8, you had till 8:40 to finish.
Yeah, something like that.
Whatever.
Because I think my official when I crossed the time for 52.5 miles, it was like 12:13 or something like that. But my actual finish time that was recorded was like 11:44 or something like that.
They kind of figured it out, but also they gave the other dude and said he had as many miles as you and had him in first, so I think you had to email him to fix it or something.
Yeah, that's true. Because the guy that did keep running, it was weird though because it had shown that we gotten the same amount of miles, and it showed that he finished later than me, even though he kept going.
Which
but
he did.
somehow,
still,
yeah. But like he was like an hour slower, but he still ended up beating me, which is weird because I was like, my time's still faster, and we went the same amount of time or like the same amount of miles. So But they fixed it. And
Yeah.
I was like, they probably wouldn't have never done anything if I hadn't emailed them. But
No,
I
for
was
sure.
like, you know. So overall, good day. I thought I had nailed down nutrition really well.
Blue slushies from
Blue slushies most of the day.
Sheets.
Yeah. Um, and then that leads us to Rim to River, which I'm also not going to go super in depth with because we're going to do an episode on that.
Yeah.
Rim to River was like my A race for the year. I've been wanting to run that race since I knew I wanted to do a 100 miler. I love the people that put on Rim to River, like Rim to River Endurance Company, great people. It's for a great cause. It's for Explorer Appalachia, however you would like to pronounce it, and it's just gets kids out into the outdoors that are from West Virginia that never get to experience like the beauty that they live in. So
Nice.
really cool race. Got off the waitlist in like June. Was so excited. Heath and I were in Colorado, and I was like, I get to run it! Yay! Super excited to train more than I ever had. And about 23 miles in, I start throwing up everything. Rough day. Throw up for a while. Threw up coming into an aid station. This poor aid station worker is like, "Hey, do you want some Pringles?" And I said, "No, thank you," and then vomited after I said that. And I was like, the poor guy's probably like, man, she hates Pringles.
Hates them.
And I like walk up to Heath. I was like, I just threw up, and he was like, I know. And I was like, I'm so sorry that you saw that. So yeah, leaving that aid station, I like am walking up this hill crawling, and I'm like calling Heath and Maitland like, hey, I'm going through it. I don't know if I can even continue on. I was like on the side of the trail, on the side of the road.
The surface was so
I
spotty too,
know.
so you had to drive past the road they were going up. It was an actual road they were going up to
Yeah.
get back on the trail. And I pass her, and she's like, not looking well. I'm like, are you okay? And she's like,
No. The answer was no.
just like staring at me, and I'm like, pulled off, and I'm like talking to her, and I don't think I touched you. I didn't
No.
want you get DQ'd or anything. And she's like, and I'm like, are you gonna be okay to go on? She just like wasn't really answering me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can pull off up here and watch you to make sure you get on the trail. And then
Yeah.
like, Maitland drove by, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna stay here. See if she comes back. Like, if she decides to come back, like, I'll stay here for like an hour because we have a while before the next aid station, and see if she's okay or what's
Yeah.
going on or if she needs to drop or whatever. I'm there. Like,
Yeah. And like looking back, it probably would have. Like I'm glad that I kept going, but like I can't believe that I kept going.
Yeah.
I like that next stretch felt like it took 10 years. I think it was like, it might have been like 11 miles before I saw you guys again. And I was splitting like 20 to 25-minute miles. Like, I was literally just like laying down on the trail. And like, people are passing me, like, can I help you? And I'm like, no. And, like, offering me stuff. It was really nice, but like, I just.
And the
I
wild thing
couldn't
is, it
move.
was so early
So
in the race,
early.
and you just ran 3 races longer than that, and not had any of those issues,
Yeah.
and then everything going to crap that early
Yeah.
was the wildest thing. And it wasn't like you started out aggressive, but it wasn't like you were running faster than your like 50K time.
Yeah,
or
like my
anything
heart
like
rate
that.
was
You weren't
low.
running that fast.
I
that
didn't feel
anything
like
should
I-
happen like that.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I was pushing super hard because people
No.
like maybe you went out too fast, and I was like, I think
You
my
can
fast.
go out too fast, and
Yeah.
you can blow up 80 miles in, and
Exactly.
then you learn from that. But like you had to have to go out so fast at like your half marathon pace, or like your marathon pace, your 50K pace, for
Yeah.
anything to go bad that or faster than that,
Yeah.
faster than your marathon pace if you have that happen at mile 20. So.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I maybe had 2 miles by mile 20 that were like under 10 minutes, and it's because I was on a road.
Yeah.
So, what I think happened is I ate a honey stinger waffle, and almost as soon as I ate that at mile 17, I was like, you feel really full, and I was like, oh, no, your stomach hurts really bad, and I was like, don't worry about it, like, you've got time to like let this settle, we're all good, and we'll go from there. And it just I started like salivating, which is like happens before you start throwing up, and I was like, oh no. And that continued on and off all day. Heath called me a faucet when he paced me.
It was a rough time.
Yeah.
And we'll go a lot more in depth to that probably in the 4th episode.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that race and what happens when things don't go right.
Yeah.
But
But yeah,
We
so
survived. What mile did you
yeah,
make it to? 70 or something?
it was 69.5 when I came into the aid station, said, my parents are here, and
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Shout out to
thankfully.
Paul.
Yeah, for answering at 3 a.m.
Yeah. So I called him. At the end of it, she was having stomach issues again. We're going like 25-minute miles. It got super cold out of nowhere. It dropped from like 50 to 35. I'm freezing. I know she has to be freezing. She's a lot smaller than me, and she's stopping every 3 feet to
Spit up.
spit. Just have, yeah, disgusting.
Insane.
And I'm like, there's no way we're gonna, because there was like 11-mile gap between aid stations, and they
Yeah.
weren't crewed. And I said, with what we're wearing, there's absolutely no way.
Yeah, I was in shorts. Yeah.
So tried calling her crew chief Maitland, and it didn't go through, or it didn't pick up or something.
She was
asleep
asleep because she
yeah.
thought she had X
Yeah, she
amount
was
of
asleep.
time.
She should have like 5 hours. So then I call her dad, and he answers on the first ring. He's like, "Hello." Like, hey, like, can we send you some coordinates? You come pick us up? He's like, "Yep." So he met us there and saved us. It's chilly.
So yeah, that was the end of my race. Big bummer.
Yeah.
But literally, as I'm DNFing that race, I'm like, I want a redemption race.
Yeah.
I was really quiet about it to like the people that I'm friends with. Like, I didn't really tell anyone that I was going to run another 100-mile race, mainly because
She says that, but then she told like 10 people.
I told you. I told Maitland.
Oh yeah, you told me. Some of
I
your
told
TikTok
Hannah,
friends and stuff like.
I told like 2 people.
Okay.
I told Liv and Sydney, and that was it. And that was like the day before the race. I was like, hey, just so you guys know, so you don't like see me post a video and are shocked like I'm running 100 miles.
Okay.
You can track me. I told Jillian while I was running the race.
Up to 10 people already.
Okay. So yeah, and I guess my parents knew too.
Yeah.
Smaller group than I would normally, because I
Yeah.
would post about it on Strava. But I signed up for like 3 weeks before, and I also didn't want to be influenced on how I would, like, I knew I wanted to, but I didn't want to do it because I felt pressured to do a redemption race.
Render River was what month?
October 26th, I think.
Cool. And then Devil Dog was
It was December 7th.
7th, okay. And it was in Virginia?
It was in Virginia, yep. And it was a 20-mile loop course. So you did the first lap was 23 miles, and then the rest of them were 19 miles. It was in Prince William State Forest.
Oh.
Yeah, very fancy. Yeah, I was upset about Rim to River because I wanted to like push myself, and so I think that the 6 weeks that I had in between those two was enough for me to get basically recovered. Like, I think my feet hurt earlier on because I had done 70 miles so close behind. But like, I ended up being okay. It was like 22 degrees at the start. I had icicles on my eyelashes for the first time ever. I was like, why can't I see that well? And I was like, oh. I took like an awful selfie of me while I was running, and I was like, that's why. Everything makes sense now.
Yeah.
You could only see crew each lap 3 times, like at the start finish. No, twice.
Yeah.
At the start finish, and then at
8?
About 8 miles in. 8.5 miles in.
No, I think it was farther in.
It was further. It was 12.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite a stretch, or 11.
Maybe it was like 14. Because I feel like we only had 4 or 5 miles to go.
It was 6.25 from that last aid station to the start finish.
Okay.
So it was like 11, 12.
Okay, that's fair.
So yeah, the first couple laps went fine. No real...
Didn't.
First couple laps?
No.
Oh,
So I'm trying to sleep. I have to drop her. So I dropped her off because you weren't allowed to be at the start line, anyone other than the people racing. So dropped her off. It was a 6 a.m. start, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 a.m. start. I'm like, cool. Not going to see her till 12, 13, 14 miles in because you did the
longer lap first.
So I'm like, cool. Going back, getting some more sleep. Sleep's going to be good because I'm going to be up a while. I'm sleeping, and then Liv calls, and she's like, I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I don't think this is good. She's like, hey, I just fell and my knee is pretty cut up. And I'm like, no. not again. Like, and I was being chill with her. I'm like, oh, you're fine. I'll get it patched up once you get to the aid station. But I'm like, shoot, this girl just went through it at Run the River.
Yeah.
Not another thing happening this early on in a race.
Yeah, and it was like I'm so glad once again I was on a gravel road, but like I slid on the gravel road and I was so glad I had gloves on because I think my hands would have been tore up.
Yeah.
Like I tore up the shorts that I was wearing over my leggings. I got a hole in my leggings. So yeah, the first time I saw you guys, like
Gravel
I met
road
it
again. She fell on. Of course.
flat.
What were you putting away this time?
Nothing.
Oh.
Literally nothing.
Okay.
Progress there.
Yeah.
But I got into an aid station and I have Maitland like lift up my leggings and like the medic sees it and walks over and is like, ah, because it was like purple and puffy and like
Not like great.
it was definitely ugly. Like it wasn't super big and like luckily my knee didn't swell, at least that I know of, because I wanted to switch leggings going into that loop. Like after I saw you guys, I was gonna switch them, but I said no.
Yeah.
I said it is what it is. I don't feel like taking everything off and putting everything back on. Like I don't want to see my knee again until I'm done. Like we'll patch it
And I
up.
don't think you really did anything after the aid station with it, which is good.
Yeah, we like put some antiseptic on it and a big old Band-Aid and called it a day.
That's one of my things. Like, if you mess with something, you're gonna start messing with it
More
and more often.
Yeah.
And more often. It's like if you scratch an itch, like you're probably gonna keep scratching and keep scratching and keep
Yeah.
scratching. Like you have to resist doing that.
So I was like stressed though because I didn't want to take pain meds that early in. And like when I got up once again, just like a cabin fever, I like put weight on it and I was like, oh no. I couldn't put weight on it. And I was like, all right, we're gonna start slowly walking. So like it stressed me out whenever I like get up from a fall and I can't put weight on stuff. It's
That
terrifying.
is concerning.
And I was like, you're just gonna pull out one of your little gels and you're gonna sip on that and you're gonna walk and you're gonna keep moving. And so I like talked myself down off the wall.
I think that's an important thing I learned kind of earlier on in running too, is like get moving again.
Yeah.
Like if you fall, you twist your ankle. If you stop before you start to do anything again, it's going to be a lot rougher. Like try to run or
And
walk
mentally,
through it.
yeah.
Yeah, because if you take that time off and then you go, I need a DNF.
Yeah,
Like,
correct.
or just if you're in a trail run, if you're like, oh, I hurt my ankle. Like, if you just run through it, you're probably going to forget about it.
Yeah.
Most of the time after 5 minutes.
Basically.
If you're bleeding, maybe not, but.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and well, that's when I knew because I was like, my knee's wet, and I was like, oh, it's because it's bleeding.
Yeah.
Cool. um, so yeah, I like put the shorts on a couple days ago, and I was like, why are they all scratched up? I was like, wore them at Devil Dog. That's why.
Nice.
But yeah, after that, everything was going well. Nutrition was going well. I picked up a pacer at the start of my third lap.
Like 42 miles in?
42 and a half miles in. Shout out to Evan. He paced me at Cloud Splitter. I hadn't seen him in almost a year. And he did a couch to 19-mile run. So I definitely think I could have ran more in that lap. I think it was when I was with him that the girl that was in first passed me. During that lap,
Were you in first before that?
I think that I didn't pass another female, so I feel like I had to have been, but I just didn't know it.
Okay.
Because I get into the aid station and I said, hey, there's a girl behind me, like, I'm gonna use the bathroom, can you tell me if she's a 100K or 100 miler? Came out of the bathroom, he's like, oh, 100 miler, and I was like, oh, okay. So I think from, like, 50 on, she was in first place for, like, 30 miles.
Mm.
She was close behind. I think she might have been in first earlier on in the day, but, at that point I was trying to, like, not super keep track of it, but the tracking was working, so I was looking every now and again.
Yeah, I didn't even think I really looked at what place you were in. I think your dad might have texted.
Yeah.
But I wasn't that worried on with knowing it's going to be a super long race.
Yeah.
And I remember when that girl was at the aid station, she was like super into it. It wasn't just like someone that was out there. Like, la, la, la. She was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to hurry up, get through this aid station, head out and stuff. And I'm like, oh, she's like, good.
Yeah.
So.
She was in and out. She seemed like she knew what she wanted. Like, I've looked her up after the race, and, like, she's a beast. She's so fast.
Yeah.
Like, her marathon PR is, like, 3:04, something like that.
Wow.
Like, she did 100K there last year super fast too. So
Nice.
she runs there all the time. I was stressed.
You were local. You were
Yeah.
immigrant.
Yeah, I was a little bit stressed about being on her turf and running, but
Good thing you didn't know that before the race.
well, I looked up my trait was that I looked up all the females.
Oh, okay.
I tried not to, but I ended up doing it. So
Interesting.
um but yeah, lap with Evan went pretty well. I think I could have pushed myself more, but we were just like catching up. I wasn't super worried about what place I was in. And then I got Heath when I was 100K in. It was about 9 o'clock at night at that point.
Yeah.
Our first lap together went pretty well.
It did, yeah, no. It
Yeah, I
was a
didn't
good time.
have many issues. I was still trying to run. It was the night shift. But during that lap was when I finally caught up to the girl that was in first.
Yeah, going into the second, or the not start finish aid station that lap, she had a 10-minute lead, and
Yeah.
we had cut it down from like 20, I believe, and she's like, Liv's like, okay, I'm gonna go now, and she's like pushing.
Yeah.
And then we have like a mile to go, and then Liv's like, hey, I see 2 headlamps up there, and
I
it's
like
like on
turn
this
around.
uphill.
I whisper, I'm like, Heath, I see him. Finally, like, I thought that I was going to catch them earlier in that little section, but it was a little bit too close for comfort. So, and of course it's on an uphill, and Heath was like, all right, like, you want to have a good face on when you pass? And I was like, yeah, we're going to run up this hill.
And you did?
And I did, and I said, nice job. Keep on going. I tried to look as strong as I could. I didn't have any pulls at that point. I didn't have pulls the whole race, actually. So I think that can also be like a mental thing. Also, getting past 80 miles in, I feel like mentally has to be hard.
Yeah.
So it was fun because I told Heath, I was like, hey, our service is bad. Don't tell Maitland. Like, don't tell my crew chief that I passed the girl that was in first. I was like, I just want us to run in and tell her. Because she had already been so hype all day. She was jumping and down coming into the aid station. So we like got in and she was like sitting by the fire and he's like, Maitland. She's like, what? So that was a really exciting moment. I was in and out of that aid station so quickly because I had one loop left. The race director came up to me and like jumped in front and was like, who are you? And I was like, huh? I said, should I know who you are? And then I like looked down at his shirt and it said like RD Devil Dog, and I was like, oh. So he was just like hyping me up for one more loop. I found out he ended up being good friends with the girl that ended up getting second. So I tried to create a big gap, but since we didn't have cell service, it was hard to know where I was in the scheme of things.
I think the first non-crewed aid station was like 4 miles in, and you created a good gap.
Yeah, I think it was like
It was
a
like
half
20
hour.
minutes, yeah, and like, okay, you made 5 minutes per mile, so like,
Yeah.
hey, we have to keep going here.
Yeah.
And that was the roughest point for me between that first aid station of the second lap and then like the last aid station of the second lap, like.
Yeah.
And you had a rough time there. You had a rough time after that, but like my my hamstrings were so tight.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Like I've never been that sore in like a shorter run.
Yeah.
Which I guess I did 38 miles, but like I felt bad for Liv because I kept letting her like run ahead of me and I'd be like walking
Yeah.
fast and then I would run and catch up. And
Yeah.
I just kept doing that because that felt better on my legs than
Yeah.
just trying to slowly jog the whole time.
Yeah.
And that was probably super annoying for her.
I like knew it was back there, but around with about 14 miles left to go is when my stomach just said no. I that stretch to the last crude aid station before the start finish was a slow moving one. I tried to get in and out super quickly because I was like, nothing that I eat right now is gonna make anything better. At that point, I'd also not taken any pain meds, so I don't even know how many miles in, and had taken 0 pain meds and said, all right.
It's impressive.
Let's call it a day. I was like, I'm not going to take them now. I was scared that it would make my stomach worse or something.
Yeah.
So, came into that aid station, said, all right, sayonara. We got 6.25 miles left to go. And then that's when it really went downhill.
Yeah. I got like a whole cup of Cheez-Its I was eating. I hadn't had Cheez-Its in like 5 or 7 years. They were so good. But like 4 miles before we got to that last aid station, like my stomach went and I never go to the bathroom outside. I'll go pee, of course, but like not the other time. And so I had to go to the restroom on a log. It's
Humbling
quite the
experience for
experience.
you.
Yeah, it's literally I think the second time in my life. I run a lot, so.
Crazy.
And so I finish up and I get back on the trail and there's this guy that comes up right as like he didn't see anything, but like right as I'm getting back on the trail and I just start like running super fast to catch up to Liv.
Yeah.
And this guy's probably like, what was that? Like he
Yeah,
had an
literally.
idea. And then the same guy, like a couple miles down the road, there was just like a water stop. And I was filling the water bottles, and he got there right as I finished filling the water bottles. And then I just start like sprinting off to catch Olivia again. This dude's probably like, what
Stop
the heck's this
it.
guy doing? Like he probably didn't see I was a pacer. I don't think it was pacer bibs,
No,
but
so, yeah.
yeah, he was probably just like, what the heck? He probably thought I
Cut it
just
out.
didn't want to get past 5 or something.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah, and it's funny because like usually in hundreds I like lay down at some point. Not lay down, but like I shut my eyes for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to coming into the last aid station or not the start finish, but the one before that. But Maitland called us and was like, "Hey, she just left," and I was like, "Oh, okay." There was no time to sit down. We got to go in and out.
yeah.
And in and out we went. So yeah, but the actual last 6 miles of the race were so bad. Like my body, like to get it into a running motion took so much work.
Yeah.
Stomach was so bad. I didn't eat or drink anything on those last 6.25 miles, even though it took us like 2.5 hours.
At least. It was
At
probably
least.
closer to 3.
Probably close.
Because I told Maitland, I'm like, okay, see you in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it was, we had a couple 30-minute miles in there. You were feeling it. You sat down
Yeah.
at one point and you're just like, everything hurts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, we have to keep going. And I was scared the other girl was going to come back to life and like pass us.
Because the
And
sun
like I
was
kept
up,
looking
yeah.
back, kept looking back. There's like some people walking because it was just the morning. And like,
Yeah.
It's a her, it's a her, is it?
Yeah, I was stressed that some hikers were going to pass us. But, like, I had at one point created, like, a 2-hour gap on the girl. So I was like, all right, you know what, if she comes back from this, like...
I don't think it was 2 hours.
Hour... 40,
Maybe at the end you were 2 hours, but like...
Not at the very end. I thought I had created... That's why I wasn't super stressed.
Yeah. I don't know, we'd have to look back. I
Yeah,
don't think it was that, but...
What do you think it was?
Maybe an hour.
Okay. That means I still...
But
created
still,
time
she would have
on
had to be moving to...
That's fair,
pass
yeah.
you.
True. So, yeah, it was bad. It was a really
time.
bad time. I'm, like, holding Heath's hand.
Yeah, she's like, can we hold hands in with like a mile or two to go? And I'm like, of course. But it was like only like single track, so it was kind of a rough time. I was walking off the trail and like we made it work, but those last 2 miles seemed like it took like
an eternity.
Yeah, an hour and a half. It really didn't. It was probably an hour, but it was
so bad.
And then on the last like downhill like 0.75 miles ago, some dude who was finishing the race just comes bombing down the hill. And I'm like, hey, good for you having that second burst of energy right towards the end. After, obviously, based on your time, you were walking a ton of it. And then you just get that burst of energy at the end, which a lot of people do during races and stuff. Just bombed it. I'm like, I wouldn't feel comfortable going that fast if I was 5 miles in the race. But I'm also not a trail runner.
So, yeah, that guy passed me. I was like, I don't care. Good for you, buddy.
Yeah,
like, I'm
no way
happy
you're going
for
to keep
you.
up with him at that point.
But it was funny because Maitland had sent my first pacer, Evan, down to try to find us because she was worried something had happened. She was like, it's been so long that maybe something happened. And the answer was no, nothing had happened. So I was just going through it. But walking in, I think my time was 28:16. Right around there, so pure in my 100-mile distance. It was really exciting because one of my good friends who's an ultra runner who's 74 years old named Randy that I met during Falling Water and that also climbed at the climbing gym I used to go to was at the finish. And I was like, what are you doing here? He ended up dropping at the 100K distance, but he was like so excited. Crossed the finish line, got my first place Yeti that says like first place female. And went and had some breakfast in the little mess hall. Heath was like dead to the world, and I was like, my eyes were just bugged out. I was like, all right, I'm hungry.
Respectfully, I'm not used to being up for
That's fair.
like 28, 30 hours at the time. So like once we finished eating, they had a van that would take you to your car because it was like a half-mile walk. and like they went back to do something at the finish line, and I'm like, can we please just go to the car? Like, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
Like, respectfully. And then we slept in the car for a couple hours before we
Literally.
started heading back, just in the back of the Jeep, which we do a lot, but it
Yeah.
was a good nap.
Heath like was snoring within a minute. It
Yeah,
was so funny.
I was dead.
Yeah. So yeah, that was that race. I can't say I ever thought I would win a 100-mile race, so that was pretty cool. I think I was like 14th overall. I could have tried to push and be 13th if I cared about that guy that passed me, but I
He was
did not.
moving.
Yeah, he was moving. He wasn't. I think he beat me by like a minute. Like I saw him on the uphill, but the
Mhm.
last.
Maybe, yeah, I remember that, because I'm like, come on,
Yeah.
Liv, come on, you can straighten
I said nah.
yeah. And
It
I
was
said,
such a
"Okay."
steep uphill to the finish line too. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I'd gone through too much at that point to care. So yeah, but ended up being a pretty good day for me. I was happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
It was a good way to wrap up the year.
It was.
Yeah.
That brings the 2024 season to a wrap.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get to some of the questions that
Yeah.
people have submitted. So
Yeah.
we'll say who submitted them, what platform they submitted them on, and then we will go ahead and answer the question.
Yeah.
And at the end, we're going to pick our favorite question and give it to all of y'all to go ahead and answer
I
in
like
the
it.
comments on
Yeah.
whatever platform you're watching on. So
Cool. Our friend Nick said thoughts on running outside all winter versus indoor treadmill running.
it's ironic because we just talked about this yesterday. We had a murder mysteries party, and we were talking. Most of the people there were runners, and at the end, our buddy was talking about how he ran like 10 miles on the treadmill.
Yeah.
And we were kind of talking about that. So I think that it depends on what your goal is.
Yeah.
If you're going to be running ultras outside in the winter, I think you should try to run outside more, and it's more important to run outside. If you're not running anything till spring or summer or whatever, and it's going to be a road race, I think you should probably, or it doesn't hurt you to run on the treadmill, because you're going to be able to run a more consistent pace as what you want. Because right now I can't go out and run 7-minute miles on these icy roads.
No.
It's just not something I wanted. So if I cared about running 7-minute miles, I'm going to need to do that on a treadmill.
Yeah.
But I think treadmills are good, that you can set the elevation, you can adjust those things and stuff, but it's not going to get you ready for any conditions like running outside. So
but since it's been super cold, one of the local running companies has been running out an indoor track, like a 200-meter track. So we've been going there on Tuesdays, which has been really nice, like a nice little reprieve from the cold. But after 60-something laps around it, I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Indoor tracks are 200 meters, but yeah, shout out to Second Soul for doing that. That's awesome to do that.
No, that is so nice. So yeah, I just mentally can't be on the treadmill. Like I've tried a couple times, and I can't get even a mile.
I sweat like a hog, and it gets everywhere.
It's insane.
And we have a nice treadmill at the house, like, and it just never gets used as a coat rack. But
literally. So yeah, our next question. These first two have been from Instagram. They're all from Instagram, actually.
Well, we have a couple at the end, but yeah.
Yeah, no, they're still from Instagram.
Alex is from Spotify.
Oh, yeah. Jed said, "What was Heath's diet while dropping the weight he did while running?"
So I dropped the weight before I actually started running. I was just running a lot on the exercise bike, which I think kind of gave me some endurance just from doing that like an hour and a half a day. But I was literally just very hard counting calories. I didn't do it in like a smart way of, I'm cutting back 500 calories a day or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like I was probably eating 1,500 calories a day at that point. And I was eating a lot of tilapia, a lot of like lean chicken and lean ground beef, I believe. Maybe some pasta with that, but I was very restrictive, and I'm not saying that's the best thing to do. I'm not saying you should do that, especially if you're running a lot. You're probably going to get injured. I wasn't doing anything high impact at the time, and I lost 60 pounds or whatever over like 2 months. So it was crash dieting, and that doesn't work for a lot of people long term. They bounce back and just gain all that weight back. So definitely wouldn't suggest that.
Yeah.
But I think everything comes down to, with weight loss, calories in, calories out, unless you have some very rare medical condition. But definitely don't cut more than 500, 700 calories a day if you're trying to lose weight, especially if you're doing intense things like running.
Judd also asked, "What's both of your diets while running?" None.
Yeah, I don't have a very good diet right now. It's something I actually talked about working on and do some meal prepping. I work at, like I said, Walmart, so I kind of snack a lot during the day and can just have whatever I want. I'm a big fan of gummy candies, so
Yes.
I definitely want to cut back on that because there's no nutritional value in those.
Fair.
Which I'm just like, burn it off while running, which you do, but like I just want to make some healthier choices and
Yeah.
definitely eat some more rice and chicken. And then our dinners are usually pretty healthy. Like we said, we have cinnamon rolls, which have zero nutritional value.
It's only on Sundays.
It is only on Sundays, but we usually, in the mornings, usually make us breakfast sandwiches
Yeah.
with eggs, English muffins, and
sausage patty.
yeah. And then dinners, we have chili
Yeah.
2 days a week. And then we
At
usually
least.
have that like white soup that has like chicken and
veggies and rice.
which neither of those are like unhealthy things. I would say the
No.
cornbread's the only like unhealthy.
But
part
like
of them.
for the most part, like we cook 6 nights a week.
We do, and then we go to our local Mexican restaurant, El Camps, every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday night, religiously, literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just eat at home a lot.
We do.
Like I try to make sure dinners are veggie and meat heavy, I feel like. I mean, like, I guess we have burgers sometimes.
We do have burgers, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, that's... I don't know. I like desserts, so I'll say that much. I love me some ice cream.
I have very bad control issues with eating things. If I, like, open a bag of something, I'm probably eating the whole things, which kind of goes back to my, like, fat days and stuff, so that's where I have to watch out. Or if there's, like, desserts there, I'm going to eat some.
Yeah.
Even though I don't need to, so... But on the bright side, I probably burn 3,500 or 4,000 calories on average a day. So, like,
true.
I can eat a good amount of food and not gain a ton of weight. But
yeah.
Definitely something I want to work on more as my diet this year.
Yeah. Carlo asked, favorite professional / inspirational runners?
My favorite runner, I don't know if it's inspirational, would be Jim Walmsley, of course.
Of course, yeah.
I don't know if he's very inspirational. He does a lot of amazing things, but he's not someone who, like, has inspirational speeches or, like, says a bunch of inspirational things from what I've seen. He's just super good. And it's very impressive about what he does. And he's, like, very... Scientific's probably not the word with it, but he's, like, very in tune with... very
everything,
on point with everything he does, which is super impressive. I would say inspirational would probably be, I don't know, David Goggins. He has a lot of stuff, and that really helped me a lot in my earlier... times running. I'd listen to him a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
How about you?
I mean, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say Courtney Dauwalter. Like,
as your favorite?
She's up there.
Come on.
Okay, Sally, obviously. Yeah. Well, Sally's more inspirational. Like, I love Sally's podcast and.
But you like Courtney better than Sally overall.
Well, one's professional and one's inspirational because it's
okay. Yeah, okay.
So Courtney probably professional, just like I don't know how she does the things that she does with such a great attitude. Yeah, she's insane. Always top 5, like beats her own course records. I don't know how she does it. It's honestly an incredible thing to watch. And then although I will say, Tara Dower doing the Appalachian Trail course record is. Well, I guess FKT is wild. That was a wild thing to watch. And, like, that trail just has so much meaning to me. So I'm just like, that's crazy.
That is true. So with that, we're going to take a pause from the questions real quick. And I'm going to ask the question for you to put in the comments, whatever you're listening on. So what do you think was the most impressive female feat in running this year?
Yeah.
Would you say it is the AT course record by...
Tara
Dower. Would you say it is the first woman to complete the Barclays Marathon?
Yeah, Jasmine Paris.
Or would you say it was Hassan, I forget her first name, running the 10K, the 5K, and the marathon at the Olympics and winning the marathon and placing top 3 in both the other 2 events?
That's a really good question.
Those are 3 amazing things.
Yeah.
Which people would be like, oh, don't compare people. But, like, what do you think is the most impressive? What's the most impressive for you if you had to pick one of those 3 amazing feats by those female athletes?
I like it. And then, obviously, inspirational Sally. I would love to just, like, have a cup of coffee and chat with Sally. I think I would just learn so much. So, shout out to the Choose Strong podcast.
Yeah.
If you don't listen to that, you should.
I feel bad for any famous person that Olivia meets because she's going to be that person that they don't like to meet because she's never going to let them go and she's going to ask them a million questions and I'm just going to be off to the side like cringing like please let them live their life, please.
I'm
Please.
so chill. Okay, maybe not. I don't know. I think I'd be normal. In my head, I'd be normal. Except for if it was Taylor Swift. Then,
I love that for you. I think you would be normal. Okay,
Fair.
next question.
All right, these four are from Paige from Instagram. What does your recovery routine look like?
Recovery miles. I just
Yeah.
run every day, even
Yeah.
after races and stuff. And like I said, I think actually moving helps you feel a lot better than not moving at all.
Yeah.
After my first 50 miler, I ran the next day, at least a 5K. But I was on vacation that week and I sat on the couch other than that and just chilled. And it took me so much longer to recover than even after my hundreds now, which of course I've run a lot more since then. But I think active recovery is big.
Yeah. I mean, we've got like the recovery booties, so I usually use
We do the rapid reboots.
Those, yep. I like those. Got like a massage gun, but yeah, I usually take like a day off and then go run some slow miles and call it a day.
I like it. And Alec also had a question on recovery. I cannot get
On
it.
Spotify?
Yeah, I don't see where you see the comments
He had
there.
said, what's your recovery look like, techniques, and then differences between recovery after an ultra versus a non-ultra.
I don't think mine differs super much. Another thing I do is soak in Epsom salts after races.
True.
I think that helps out. I don't stretch at all. It's not something I do. Sometimes after races, if I'm feeling rough, I go see Bethany at Physio 330 and
Yep.
Akron? No, it's not Akron. It's Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
Yeah.
She's absolutely great. She usually fixes me within 1 or 2 visits, and I've been seeing her for like the past 4 or 5 years. So she's absolutely amazing. So if you're in the Northeast Ohio area, check her out. Physio 330.
Yeah. Anything? We don't do anything else. Let's be real.
No, we don't. And that's something you're working on. I want to use the recovery booties more, like
Yeah.
the compression boots. There's rapid reboots. I think that's what we have. And then also like the Normatec boots. I think those are cool if you have them. We already have them. So I wouldn't say like, hey, it's important to go out and buy something that's $800 to $1,000 and stuff. But since we already have them, there's no point in not using them. I think they do help some.
Yeah, definitely. Next question. What goals have you set for 2025?
I think my ultimate goal for 2025, that's kind of like my A thing, be really awesome to do this, is set the course record at Brandon River, which I think is at 14:12.
Yeah.
We'll see if that happens. It's going to take a good day, a great day for me, not a lot of things going wrong, and the weather being good, and a really good training cycle going into that. So that's kind of my A goal. How about you?
I would like to do sub 24 and 100.
Awesome.
That's, I think, the only big one that I have right now. And we'll go from there.
I like it.
What do you listen to while running?
I used to listen to music all the time on my watch. I haven't updated my watch since I bought my new one to have music on it.
Awesome.
So usually I listen to YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I'm a degenerate, so I listen to like a bunch of sports things.
Yeah.
And then I listen to things about like, I don't know, Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes. Like anything that comes up that I'm interested in. Like, I don't know. I don't even play those games anymore and stuff, but it's nostalgic for me. And also I listen to music from time to time.
From time to time.
But a lot of times we're running together, so I don't listen to anything during that.
Yeah, I just listen to a lot of audiobooks. So many audiobooks. And podcasts. Like National Park After Dark. Love that one. Oh, and Tooth and Claw. And obviously True Strong. But yeah, so many books.
Yeah, so if you listen to an audiobook, another question for the comments, do you consider that you read that book?
That's actually a really touchy point of discussion.
Yeah.
But the consensus that I found is yes.
Yes,
you
you
did read it.
Okay.
Yeah. Last question. What's one lifestyle change that's helped you become a better runner?
Consistency.
Yeah.
Doing it every single day. That's been my major turning point. Because a lot of people look at, hey, giving maximum effort, and you can go to the gym once a month, or you can run once a month and give all the effort in the world. But if that's all you do, you can only get so far, and it's not going to be very far.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at minimums versus those maximums.
Yeah. I feel like for me, just more miles.
Mm-hmm.
More miles just like helps with everything.
Yeah. Because if you do, I feel like it's a lot more effective if you do 70 miles or 50 miles every week rather than doing 20 miles one week, 100 miles the
Yeah.
next week. Like, it's going to be harder on your body to do 20 than 100
Yeah.
rather than just building up. And you should slowly build up to get to
Yeah.
whatever mileage you're looking at. You shouldn't do more than, I think, 10% more than the week before. And then
Yeah.
also probably have weeks where you do
Deload?
a little bit less
Yeah.
or just the same amount and don't increase just so your body can get used to it.
Yeah. I like that nice, even Strava map.
Mm-hmm.
Strava graph, I guess.
You
That's
see
what
some
I'm
wild
working for.
ones on there.
I do.
Yeah, or
It's
everyone does, but
interesting,
yeah. And that's interesting to me. Like, no hate to those people. Obviously, people have different lives and like work schedules and stuff, so maybe that works for them. Maybe if you're working on an oil rig for 18 hours a day for 2 weeks, then you have 2 weeks off or something, or
Yeah.
maybe you're a doctor or something. Your Strava map's going to look a little different, and you have to do what works for you. But
Yeah.
definitely, I think even's better if possible.
Even Steven's always better.
It's a good show.
Well, that's all the questions we got, so.
Awesome. If you have any questions for next time, definitely leave those in the comments, and then go ahead and put in the comments what you thought was the most impressive female running feat of the year. Or if you have one that wasn't one of those three listed.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Woo!